Well, why don't we turn our attention, even though it's not nearly as important, given how prolific the pass attack is, the rush attack just has not really been there. Even though they scored 30 points a game last year, they just never had a backfield option that felt steady, that felt viable from a week-to-week basis for fantasy owners last year. Now, do you think that's going to be the case here in 2020? Do you think there's a hope? I know early in the offseason, you were writing a lot about Zack Moss, that he was consistently the best running back at camp, but the best ability can sometimes be availability, as that old saying goes. And I know he's again dealing with nagging injuries. So how is this kind of playing out so far in camp?
Yeah, well, before the preseason game, Moss was the better of the two running backs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Moss injured his hamstring a couple of days before the preseason game against the Lions, couldn't play, and Singletary went in and on, I think, 5 or 6 carries, looked pretty good. Singletary this offseason has completely reshaped his body. He has cut down a lot of the body fat percentage, looks leaner. I don't necessarily know if he's more explosive, but he's really focusing on trying to get north-south more than these east-west runs that he used to do a lot of in 2020. And that's been his major point of emphasis. And at least against the Lions, take it for what it's worth, it's the Lions, he showed well in a few carries. Now, the good thing for Moss is that actually today he got back on the practice field, worked into some team drills, so it doesn't seem like that hamstring injury is going to linger. But the Bills are holding out hope that he can play against the Bears. And I think he probably knows that he needs to, because if he wants to maybe even take hold of this backfield, then he's going to need to show better than Devin Singletary, and he saw Singletary have a pretty good day. So I would still probably lean towards Moss being the guy who gets the majority of snaps, but I don't think it's going to be a large disparity. I think at most it would be 60-40. I do think there's a world where potentially down the line Singletary maybe falls back into bad habits of going east-west and trying to make guys miss and not maximizing his runs, and to where maybe he becomes more of an afterthought. Maybe even they want to try Matt Breida because he's got this speed, unlike Singletary or Moss, as more of like a second chair kind of thing. But I do think that we're well away from anything like that, and I think the Bills are just going to ride the hot hand, frustrating as it is for fantasy football owners.
Yeah, and as you mentioned that name there, Breida, he did see 12 touches in the preseason, 2 receptions, didn't do much with it, 42 yards from scrimmage. Is there a world where this is like not only just a 2-headed nightmare that is in a great viable attack anyways, but becomes a 3-headed nightmare and they mix Breida in there a decent amount as well?
I don't think so, just because they've usually only gone with a 2 running back approach. And that's since McDermott and Bean have took over. Their game day actives usually have their 3rd running back needing to be a legitimate special teams asset, and that the last couple of years has been Tywan Jones. So I think for them, they probably look at it like, okay, it's going to be one or the other of either Singletary or Breida or Moss or Breida. I would end up thinking that Matt Breida winds up being basically what TJ Yeldon was the past couple of years for Buffalo, game day inactive unless somebody's injured. And if somebody is injured, then he'll go in and maybe not even be a 50-50 share. The other guy would probably be the one. But you never know. If Singletary reverts back to bad habits, this is his 3rd season too, just like we were talking about with Dawson Knox. If he reverts to bad habits, they might go, okay, we've seen all we need to see. Let's inject some speed into our offense, see what Matt Breida can bring to kind of do a little thunder and lightning approach, like the USC used to do with Londale White and Reggie Bush.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see out of the Buffalo backfield after nothing quite productive happened there last year. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.